Welcome to TNT, baby, the naked truth with Taylor Armstrong, where I'm going to expose everything about my life, and my guests are going to come on, get naked with me, and bear it all. Now, let's get naked. Welcome to the Naked Truth. I'm Taylor Armstrong, and I'm here with my bestie, Gemma. And
Hi.
Gemma, I want to talk about unraveling the mystery between soulmates and twin flames.
Ooh, that's going to be exciting.
I think so. I mean, do you believe that you have one soulmate in your life?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. I mean, I think you can have a lot of soulmates in different ways.
I think my daughter, now that she's 18, she has started this theory that maybe the person she's with is her forever person. And I remember feeling that way in high school as well.
Oh my gosh, we all felt that way.
And
It's like, I'm going to marry you.
I know, I'm going to marry you. And I remember my boyfriend in 7th grade, probably Todd Walton.
Ooh, Todd
I
Walton.
thought he was my everything. For sure he was going to be my man
my
forever.
gosh, that's so
and then he
cute.
moved away and almost had a nervous breakdown. My little 7th
That
grade
was
nervous
it. Your
breakdown.
plans were out the door.
My plans were totally out the door when Todd Walton moved away. But I
That's
do
so funny.
think that when you're young, you think you've met your forever person, and you're
do.
so young. But what is that attraction that you're feeling?
Okay, so that's interesting because I think when you're young, you actually do feel like this is my person, this is my soulmate, this is whatever. But I do feel like as you get older, you learn more about yourself and you realize what that actually is.
So you grow out of your first soulmate.
I think maybe you do. I think sometimes if you're very lucky, like less than 1% of people are like 8 and 16. Like my stepbrother.
Okay, hold on a minute.
Yeah,
halt,
I just
halt
mean
the presses
8 and
because
16.
no, I forgot that we have this bucket in front of us
Oh,
because
no.
anytime we say the word like or right, we have to put a chip in, and you just said like
just
3
did
times
it.
in a row.
Oh my gosh, is that
I'm
3
making
chips?
so much money on this.
1,
Two.
2, 3.
Okay,
Here we
now
go.
tell me again without the word Like.
Okay, I'm gonna try. When you're young and you have a crush on your neighbor and you're young, that usually doesn't turn into a relationship or anything. I will say my stepbrother was like 11 and his neighbor that he fell in love with was like 13. They ended up getting married when they were 18, and now they have 3 kids and like 12 grandkids. So, and they've
Like
been married
12
forever.
grandkids?
And they have like 12 grandkids. So it happens.
So
I mean,
good.
it does happen for people.
It's so rare though. And I also think there's so much social media and so much access does that change your search for a soulmate because you learn so much more about someone before you even spend time with them.
I think that's a
Googling
problem.
them, looking them up, following them, stalking them on social media.
Yeah, I will say when I was younger, it was like you were at the grocery store and all of a sudden you could feel the chemistry of like the checkout guy. And he's like looking at you and you're like looking at him and you're like, wow, are we going to do this? You're going to ask for my number, you know, when you're young. And I feel like now generations don't really have that the same way that we had it when we were younger because of technology, dating apps, things like that, where you meet somebody. It is hard to get that chemistry reaction, chemical reaction to somebody.
After my husband committed suicide and I was on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I thought I'll never meet anyone and have a genuine relationship because my life was so public and I had written my entire life story in a book. So I thought, how am I ever going to meet anyone that's going to like go out and ask questions about each other? Because I'll be like, oh, I already know everything about you.
Absolutely.
Which I think with social is a huge
challenging.
thing for young people.
Oh, for young people?
Yeah, because their lives are all over social media.
They already know everything. You can look somebody up and see where they had lunch yesterday. It's very easy to stalk someone.
Very easy to stalk someone.
When you're nowadays, I can't even imagine actually growing up. Now that we're talking about it in this era of where everything is so public like that, it seems very difficult.
When I met what I thought was my soulmate, it happened instantaneously. I was at a conference and I ran into him like by the coffee maker or whatever outside the conference, and he made some cute comment to me and I was head over heels that quickly. And when you met your first soulmate.
That was my first husband. So my first husband, he came to a party. It was my 21st birthday. I was already engaged to somebody else. And we had our own place and everything. And then a girl I had gone to school with but was also friends with people there showed up with her boyfriend. I opened the door. Time stood still to where the other people were uncomfortable. And they were like, what is going on? It was
Wait,
so
so
weird.
it was your friend's boyfriend?
Yeah,
that
not my
became,
friend, my acquaintance.
Oh, your acquaintance's
Coker Carly John
boyfriend.
Jones was her name.
And you were engaged.
And I was engaged.
And as soon as you saw him, it
Yeah.
was...
And him, we just stared at each other. It was totally weird. We were staring at each other all night, like across the room. Like it was so thick. The air was so thick. And it was...
It kind of gives me
the
chills. It's so
weirdest-
exciting to feel that way.
It was the weirdest thing. And then we had to move to a cheaper apartment because that place was like Newport Beach and it was so much money. And one of our friends was going to move back home. So I was like, hey, like I can't really go back home. He's like, I can't go home. I'm looking for a place. I can't go home either because we're young. We're like 23 and 21 at the time. He's like, you want to get a place together? And I was like, yes, let's get a place together. Like, yes. Let me put a chip in.
I am so winning on this. I love it.
You know, we were married, had a baby, bought a house in 12 months.
Wow.
That was it. Yeah, we're like fast track in life.
And then is that something that you regret because you let all the fireworks move in? Or
So I have zero regrets because that's how I live my life in general.
so good.
Could things be totally different? Yes, but my kids wouldn't be my kids and everything would be different than it is. And I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now if that one little thing didn't happen.
Sliding doors.
Yep, everything lined up. So I don't really have any regrets about it. But I would definitely say to not be so impulsive and get married in relationships without actually knowing who you're marrying at all.
But, right, because
It was 100% chemistry.
the chemistry takes over
Yeah.
in the beginning.
Yeah.
And how long until that fizzles out and you realize, I don't really know this person?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
That 3 years was your number.
I think 3 years was
So
it.
my soulmate, I still believe, was my soulmate.
Right.
And as we got together and things progressed pretty quickly as well, we built a house together, we were engaged to be married, and then all of a sudden reality set
Starts
in.
set in.
And I thought, wait, are we really soulmates? Because I had different desires. I wanted to work. He didn't want me to work. He wanted me to stay at home and be a mom.
Totally
And I
different.
was not prepared for any of that. But the
And that's
reality
really
didn't
good.
set in until we were right about to walk down the aisle. And we called our wedding off 5 weeks before our wedding.
Wow.
And I remember the exact moment. I was putting ice in a glass and the ice maker was clinking. And that sound always will remind me of this moment. And I said I wanted to chair the heart ball because I thought, oh, he doesn't want me to work, but this is a charity event. And he
Wow.
said, the bottom line is I forbid you. And
Oh
I
my
thought,
gosh.
wow, as the ice was clinking,
Yeah.
all of a sudden my soulmate fantasy went away because I realized that it was all about what
Constricting.
his needs were. And I was just falling into it because I was so emotionally and chemically in love.
That's really important what you say there because like when I say my first husband and that we had this standstill moment like that, right, where time stood still and we were in love. Us on a desert island, perfect. You know,
Right.
absolutely perfect. Life is great on a desert island, right? You're just together. But anything outside of that was just total chaos. And so I feel like it might be the same similar situation for you where it's like the two of you on a desert island is like the most magical thing in the world. But what you want for your life, who you are as a person, the goals you want to accomplish, their ego, like your ego, like how that all interacts with each other. I mean, that one comes with maturity, right? We have to age to learn those lessons the hard way. And two, like, even though he's your soulmate, maybe he's definitely not the person you should be in life with.
Is a soulmate someone that builds you up? Should it be that? Is personal growth part
I-
of thinking that you're with your soulmate because you're both building each other?
I think the general public looks at it that way. I do know that when I was younger, it's like somebody that it's just magical with, and you guys both want to make babies together, and the chemistry's like all crazy, right? And you just want to be together all the time. You don't, nothing, your breath doesn't smell, your hair, you're never dirty. You know, like that must be my soulmate. They don't smell bad, you know?
Right? And you're willing to have morning sex with them?
Yeah, you're willing to have the morning sex.
Which you know
Like-
is I'm the
Yeah.
anti-morning sex
Yeah,
person.
it's so funny. But for you, you're my soulmate. I'll do
Exactly,
it.
my soulmate. Okay, I'll have
And then,
morning sex.
like, as I got older, I think now a soulmate is somebody who allows you to be you, whether that's bad or good. They'll pick you up off the floor if you need it. They'll cheer you on when you need it. Like, somebody that just wants you to be happy genuinely without anything going. And I think that also changes from when you are of childbearing age and you want to have children. Like, it's a different than when you're older, right? Because, like, now I just want companionship. I want somebody that understands me, that isn't like, hey, why are you doing this? Hey, why are you doing that? Like, I just want to be able to be myself but have companionship and move through it, where you're like sharing things like best friends than this like crazy chemistry. Although, I mean, sometimes in your head you miss the crazy chemistry
Yeah.
and you want that, but the chaos that it brings is not worth it in the end.
And the heartbreak
And the heartbreak.
when you realize that you thought all this chemistry was love, and then you realize that actually it was just chemistry.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it's like love is so much more.
So much
It's
more.
like, to me, love is 100% sacrifice. I mean, you're sacrificing what you want to eat for dinner. You're sacrificing what you want to do in your life, where you live, like all kinds of things you're sacrificing for that other person. And hopefully they have the same level of sacrifice. And your biggest problem is that you want to make each other happy.
Compromise.
Yeah, compromise.
Absolutely. When after I lived through my abusive marriage, my first marriage, when my current husband asked me to marry him, I said, I will marry you, but you cannot change me. You cannot ask me to change. And I think that comes with maturity and also knowing what you want in your life, but also what you're not willing to accept.
And not being afraid to say it anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. Because when we're young, we just want to be the everything.
I didn't say anything that bothered me. I was like always afraid like that would be the end of it, or or I don't know what I was afraid of, but I was always afraid to say anything I actually thought in a relationship.
And is that because we're young, and then when we get older and we've lived more life, we know what we want, but also I think more importantly what we're not willing to accept or
I
tolerate.
feel like it's confidence and valuing yourself. I mean,
Absolutely,
like
personal
I was
value.
an extremely insecure child. Like,
As was I.
I grew up with an alcoholic father figure in our household. Not my father. My father's amazing, but my mother's boyfriend. And she was very sick. She ended up dying very early at 52.
I know.
So like just like living in that space where I've always felt like I was like raising myself and always seeking that approval, to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the best at everything, because I'm like always trying to get this approval from parental figures that really weren't involved or were ever going to give me this approval, right? So when you're younger, you're seeking that in outside relationships. And I feel like obviously love relationships that with my boyfriend or whoever was like, I just didn't want them to leave me. I already had like abandonment issues.
As did I, absolutely.
Yeah, so I just didn't complain. I was like, whatever you want. Like, sure, you want a threesome? Sure, we can make that happen. I have
Wait,
no interest
threesome?
in that. Yeah.
This is a whole different topic, Gemma.
Look, I don't want to do it, but I don't want you to leave me. I don't know why I don't want you to leave me, because you're clearly a jerk. But
Well, 100%. And I had severe abandonment issues growing up without a father, and so I would acquiesce very easily in having those abandonment issues, not wanting someone to leave me. So becoming a ghost of myself, changing constantly in order to keep that other person happy.
Yeah.
And that, I do believe, comes with age and saying, I know who I am now, and I know what I'm willing to accept and what I'm not willing to accept. And that also goes for friendships.
absolutely.
And you bond with people. And so you were talking to me about something the other day called twin flames.
Twin flames.
How is that different than soulmates?
I feel like it's definitely more from your soul. Like you're just the same person. You have the same sense of humor. You just seem like your twin, right? Oh gosh, I just said right again.
There were a few likes in
Gosh.
there, but I let it go.
I'm already losing this. I'm losing this game, Taylor.
You're totally losing it. It's great.
I just think that it's really interesting, because when you say about my soulmate, so like my husband was what I thought was my soulmate at that time, but he also was the one who became my abuser.
Right.
So that's an interesting dynamic that you think of, because it's like you on drugs, you off of drugs, right? Like you're totally normal, you like totally in love, you have a great day, and then, well, he had a problem with prescription meds. He does meds, and then he's like somebody else completely. Then fast forward, I get into another relationship, of course, make another horrific choice that I thought was great, but that was only a year after my husband passed away. So I get in this relationship, and this guy is a total actual narcissist, like love bombing me, all these things. And I still, to this day, because I just recently saw him when his mom passed away, because I had taken care of his mother, and he showed up here. And so we had like a conversation or two, and it goes right back to that, you're my soulmate. I don't think that this world was made for us to be apart. I'm like, well, really, then why are we apart? And it's like,
And
what?
why are you apart?
Yeah, because we're too much like each other. We're twin flames. We're too much like each
Oh,
other. It would never
really?
work, and too much water under the bridge and all these things. But the idea is like he actually has to control the relationship and have me as like some option in the back of his head forever. you know, and it's like a weird control thing. So you get
I
into it.
totally understand.
But to this day, I'll still be like, oh my God, he was my soulmate. Like everything was so real. Like it was like off the charts crazy. And I was like, I mean, amazing, right? Like amazing. Like I felt like he was literally part of me, like DNA. And he'd be like, I feel that way. And he'd say all those things. And it was like crazy. And then later you're like, okay, if you really felt like that, I think we would be together. Unless this is a manipulation, or is it really chemistry? And it has you guessing. So even when you know, like that was not healthy, this is all red flags, it doesn't make any sense, you're still like in your head chemically like bonded to somebody.
So the twin flame is a romantic relationship? I mean, are you and I twin flames? Because
No, I feel like we could be twin flames.
we could be twin flames.
Because so much stuff happens, we're like, oh my God.
I know. Well, we're both Geminis, so we're twins anyway.
Yeah.
But then
All
in
four of
addition
us
to
are
that,
twins.
oh, right, all
Yeah.
of us in this room, all the you and I's. But we have so much in common, and we have very similar personalities, same humor. We have
I
a lot
don't think
of
it always has to be like a lover relationship.
right. We have a
Yeah.
lot of life experiences that are similar too, so we bond on those with
Absolutely.
abuse and
All of it. Parenting,
loss,
just life
parenting.
experience.
Absolutely. So
And
it's-
how we've grown at the same rate, I think, also, and come to realize things at the same times in our lives.
I agree. Unfortunately, we both had to suffer a lot to get where we are today.
Yeah.
But so twin flames and soulmates, what's the bottom line? What's the mystery between the two?
The bottom line is, I believe it's chemistry and people that teach you things. So, like, even though, like, my ex was narcissistic, or I say that lightly, but he was actually truly, like, a narcissist. But I don't feel like, what am I trying to say?
Well,
He has, like, I feel like there's the chemistry aspect, and then there's the whole meant to be like similarities, like how you can bond with somebody, to be totally separate. I know, like, we want to label things like that's a soulmate or that's a twin flame, but I do believe a lot of it's just life, and it's like a way of labeling that connection that you have with somebody.
do you think that once you have this kinetic energy, twin flame, soulmate thing happening, that you, once you move on from that relationship, are always going to be striving for that again, like a drug addict
Yes.
who wants that chemistry and those butterflies? And
I do.
I do too.
I think you start looking for it for your whole life.
I think
And
so.
you just want to feel that connection again that you have with somebody. And I don't know what that is. Like, I think we should start a study.
We should.
I mean, I think if anybody wants to fund a study to study soulmates, that would be great, because I would love a scientific answer to that connection. Because I know, like, there's people that you just feel like we're supposed to do something together. Like, maybe it's a business, maybe it's sex, maybe it's an actual long-lasting relationship. I have no idea. But you meet certain people, and there's no denying that there's, like, some kind of energy
100%.
force
Yes.
around that connection.
And then do you feel like in the relationships that come after the soulmate twin flame thing, that you're always comparing it to the feelings that you had with your soulmate twin flame?
Yeah, I think you really have to stop doing that.
I know, it's so
really
hard.
It's really hard because there's that Gatsby quote that says there's all types of love in the world, but never the same love twice. And I really believe that. And it doesn't mean that one love is worth less than the other. I think that they just teach us different things at different times. That's what I was saying before, was that even though my ex was like a narcissist or whatever happened in that relationship that was so crazy, I'm so glad that I got to experience it, because it was crazy and amazing and emotional, and I do compare things to it now, but I would hate to have gone through my whole life without having that connection with somebody. But he also made me a better person in certain ways, where, like, I organized my life differently. I thought about the way I keep my house differently. Like, there's just things that happened in that relationship that actually made me a better person in a really good way, even though it was completely horrifically painful torture.
I know. My breakup with what I think is my soulmate was horribly painful. And then I made a huge mistake of, we would still spend time together. We would travel together, and
Oh,
then
no, I did
it
that
was
too.
just like breaking up over and over again.
Yeah.
We would be together in the Caribbean or something, and we'd be saying to each other, over like a Mai Tai, we're never getting back together.
We're not doing this.
We would both be saying
This
it.
isn't happening.
And then every time we would go our separate ways, it was like breaking up all over again.
Oh yeah, we had like a 2-year relationship with a 3-year on and off total hey, I think I left my spoon at your house.
I'll be right over.
Yeah, any reason to come over.
Right.
And I mean, it was crazy. We were like, actually, I think we were both lunatics at the time because it was like crazy chemistry. All this is happening. Clearly, I had children. I think that that was hard for him. He had control things. There was like a lot of stuff in the relationship that didn't work. Also, now that I look back, I pined after that relationship for so long. Like I just wanted to find anything similar to that. And then when I met my current husband, he had just come off of a divorce, who he thought was his soulmate forever.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the story goes she had an affair with multiple people, and then they ended up divorced. Who knows what the truth is? His wife is very lovely. But he had 3 kids. They were high school sweethearts. He thought they were going to be married forever. And I had just come off this like super chemistry, crazy sex, you know, just connected. We were together all the time, like all this stuff. We went to concerts. We just had like a crazy, awesome couple of years together. And so, and I thought about my husband. I thought, we're never gonna, this relationship isn't gonna go anywhere, right? So I just told him everything that I was suffering with from that breakup. And he told me everything that he was suffering with that breakup. So we didn't sleep together or anything for like 6 months because we were just like becoming friends.
Right.
Because I didn't think it was going to go anywhere.
But you both bonded over your misery.
I would consider him one of my soulmates, my husband, because I've learned so much from that relationship. And I think we were talking before, especially when you come out of an abusive relationship, which I like kind of a physically abusive relationship and then a mentally abusive relationship. But you really start to learn a whole new kind of love and respect for somebody. Like, I respect the fact he didn't want to like have sex on the second date. I like respected him because of the way he treated me. And so he made me believe that I was worthy of that treatment, where since high school, it was like every guy that I dated was like, I bought you dinner. When are we going to hit the sack?
Right.
And you're like, do I really owe you that for dinner? Like, is that, do I have sex with you for dinner?
That's a horrible feeling.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you're like, no, I'm not doing that. So it was really nice just to be with somebody who was very respectful, that I felt actually fell in love with me for who I am, not what they wanted from me.
We both experienced that because John helped me with my legal battles after my husband committed suicide, and so he had that knight in shining armor effect.
Yeah.
And we didn't get along for the first couple of years because I was going through so much, and he, in handling the 2 legal firms, every time he called me it was bad news, and I was just like, I don't want to talk to you, I hate you, and he felt the same about me because he was like, this girl's crazy. But I was a little crazy. I mean, I'd gone through a lot. I was a little nuts, but then he stood by my side, and I believe that's why it ended up falling into a love pattern versus just a savior pattern, because I felt he's the only person I'm ever going to be able to trust. He's been by my side through the worst days of my life, and he stuck it out despite how nuts I was.
That's how I feel about my husband too. Like, he stuck, I mean, and I was like 100 pounds heavier when we were together. Like, I was miserable. I mean, I thought I was physically just falling apart. I was working 16-hour days. Like, it was crazy.
You still do that.
And he did everything to help me. And so, you know, it was like whatever project I'm working on, he's hauling the stuff, and, you know, it just was there. And I honestly was like the only male figure that had ever been there, present in my life, actually doing things. Like, I remember, like, I never changed the light bulbs, right? Like, my house would just be all of the lighting, you know, the can lighting. Like, they would just go out one at a time, and I would just eventually not have lights. And so when we started dating, he was like, you need me to switch these light bulbs out? And I was like, yes, can you do that?
You're my knight in shining armor handyman.
I mean, like, listen, like, I'm all for women's empowerment, but men also, listen, I can't do everything a man can do. I just can't.
Right.
And a man can't do everything that I can do. I mean, they can't. So I have to appreciate those things, right, in both gender roles. And guess what? Could I find a 30-foot ladder to get in the hallway to get the light? Yeah, but do I want to?
No.
No. If somebody's going to take care of that for me, please go ahead.
But then I think about, for you and I both, because we have these abandonment issues, is there something about the role that our current husbands play that's a little daddy-ish?
Yeah. Yeah,
like
and
filling
I mean,
that
and my
role.
husband's also a little codependent. So, and I'm always like, you're codependent. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yes, you are.
Yes.
Babe. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think then where's the division with soulmates and twin flames when it turns into codependency?
Right. And then what happens when you're not, so it seems like a soulmate, but then like I mean, I don't know about you, but I've grown a lot. So like when you first found me, I was like a broken bird.
Right.
I had like a broken wing, and everything just seemed impossible. Like my husband dying was caving in on me. It was hitting me like a couple years later when that other relationship ended. And not when that happened. I was still underwater when I got into that relationship. And didn't deal with it. So he's sitting there with me. He's dealing with everything. You know, it's all about the healing. And then it's horrible because now I feel like I'm at a point where I'm like, I don't need that.
Right.
You know?
I'm in the same exact situation where I was so wounded, and then having the knight in shining armor effect, and then having someone who doesn't judge me and lets me be exactly who I am. And then now that I feel grown and healed and mature,
And now you want to fly
finally,
away. Your wings are.
I'm like,
your
wait,
wings are healed.
I don't need, right? I'm all healed. It's time for me
It's
to go.
time to fly away
I know,
now.
and it's
Just
terrible.
kidding.
I mean, after
And you're like, I can't actually do that. But sometimes I do. I'm like, wow, this is hard because the relationship is hard. And then also it's changed a lot. The dynamic has changed because it went from that to this. And so now I feel like I know that we butt heads all the time about simple things where like it didn't seem like a problem before, but as I become more independent, it's a problem.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
I feel the
Like,
same.
where are you? What are you doing?
Where are you?
Are
What
you
are you
on
doing?
Life 360? And you're like, oh my gosh. You
Oh my
know
God,
where
he
I
has you
am.
on Life 360?
Yes, he has me on Life
No!
360. If I asked
That
him,
is a no.
if I tried to get off of Life 360, he would full on be suspiciously weird. and acting
No,
weird.
I cannot.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, not that I'm going anywhere, but that would make me feel like I was being stalked all the time. I mean, I have my daughter on Life 360 because
I have Hannah,
I
too.
have to know where she is
Yeah.
because she's my child.
But does she stalk you more than you stalk her? Because
She doesn't know where I am.
oh,
She-
okay. So you have her, but she can't see you.
Exactly.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Well, I
didn't know
have
you
to
could
have
do
her.
that.
She drives.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you
Because I
can.
have Hannah, but she calls me and she's like, "Hey, are you shopping right now?" I'll be like, "What do you mean? Did you
No,
check?"
you just
She's
have
like,
to
"Are
turn
you
your
at Home
location
Goods?"
services off.
Yeah,
you
I'm
cannot
at
have
Home
people
Goods.
knowing where you are, but that's interesting
sending
that
me a
your husband
grocery
has
list.
to know where you are all the time.
Yeah, she checks on me more than I check on her.
Well, my husband calls me 900 times a day, so it's basically the same thing because he knows where I am. It's just he doesn't have me on a tracking device. I would freak out, I think.
So my son said the same thing that you're saying right now. He was literally like, "That is inhumane. People, it's sick." He's like, "It's sick." We had a whole conversation about it on our 40-hour drive. He's like, "It's sick that people, I mean, you understand the pressure that's in the back of everyone's head all the time, everybody knowing where they are and what they're doing." I was like, "What do you have to hide?" And
Right.
he's like,
well,
"But
I get that.
understand his
And
point
it's not
too."
that I am hiding where I am. I just would feel bizarre that somebody can
just
see
find you.
exactly where I am on a street at any time.
Yeah.
I mean, with my child, it's different, of course, because
Right.
I need to know where she is in case something
Of
goes
course.
wrong. But at the same time, I don't know how I would feel if I thought other people were tracking me constantly.
And then they're like, "It's because I want to make sure you're safe.
I know.
I
It's
just
all
need to
bull-
know if you're like
It's
in
all
a ditch
bullshit.
somewhere." You're like,
It's because I love you so much. I need to track you on Life 360.
"Oh my gosh.
I don't
all
know.
day, every day."
I think I'm gonna have to talk to Tony about this whole situation.
Yeah, I think we should have a group conversation actually.
We really
about
should.
this.
I know.
But your
Well,
soulmate can also be a person that drives you crazy. That's the point, I think, is like that, yeah, you can do all those things, but it doesn't mean that that's not your soulmate. It just means you have to deal with reality.
I feel like my current husband, we're besties. So how is a twin flame and a best friend different?
Well, a lot of us have best friends that we have nothing in common with. I think that's actually true. I mean, I have a
Oh,
lot of
that's
really
interesting.
good friends. We live completely different lives, but we just really enjoy each other's company. But like a twin flame, I do think it's a little bit more like there's coincidences, or they're more like exactly like you. I guess like I don't know. Like how you're
but John,
born.
my husband and I are very different. So I agree with that. We're not
Yeah.
twin flames
Yeah.
because he grew up on a ranch in Wyoming. He likes to hunt and fish. And I mean, we do have the skiing thing in common. But
Yeah.
do you find that mutual hobbies are part of twin flaming, that you're both into the same things?
No, I think it's more of a chemical, like you feel like you're split from the same atom.
Okay.
You know what I mean? More than that. I think it's more like cut from the same cloth. You know, how do you say? Like, you
Right.
obviously make different choices in your life, but like what drives you and who you are as a person, I think is very similar.
So is a twin flame someone that you can call at 2:00 in the morning and they're always going to pick up, or is that a bestie?
That's a bestie.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a bestie or maybe a soulmate. But like, yeah, I think the twin flame thing is just some weird celestial thing that just feels like it's meant to be, and it's 100% chemistry based. We still need to have that study.
I know.
done.
I still feel I can't figure out which you and I are. Are we twin flames? Because we have so much in common.
It's crazy.
I don't know, but I could also call you at 2:00 in the morning and you would answer, and I do
100%.
actually. Well,
Yeah.
we're usually still on the phone at 2:00 in the morning because we both like to work late at night.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't even have to call you late at night. We're just on the phone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our husbands are both snoring in the background. Like,
Exactly.
can you hear this? Yeah, it's
I
annoying.
love it. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know if and once you have a soulmate, do you go the rest of your life just searching for a replacement for that soulmate, or is it because we've matured so much that that soulmate status changes?
Ah, that's a good question. I mean, I do think it's that it changes.
If
as
you
you
saw
grow.
your soulmate today, your first soulmate, do you
Mhm.
think that the connection would still be there, the chemistry?
I have no idea what would happen because the chemistry went away when the abuse started happening.
Right.
Right? It went away. I
That
mean,
makes
but
sense.
I still love him though. Like I still love him. But no, because if he was sitting here right now playing his guitar, laughing with his deep laugh that everyone in the room would turn around, I would be head over heels. Like
Yeah.
just looking at him.
I feel the same. If
Yeah.
I were in the same room with my first soulmate, I think that the chemistry would be so strong that we probably would just like repel each other. We'd have to get away from one another
Right.
quickly.
It's like the person where you can like look at them across the room and you know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
You know, and even if it's not, let's go to the bathroom. But you know what it is. Like you read each other's minds literally. And it's just like a crazy connection.
What about, there's been some really famous Hollywood couples that have had almost like creepy soulmate twin things going on.
Machine Gun Kelly.
Yes, and Megan Fox.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were like hot. And that's the thing. I think it burns really fast and it's hard to maintain because it's so outrageous and you guys are doing crazy things together and you have all these wild ideas and you think it's going to last forever.
Right? And then like
Yeah.
when Billy Bob Thornton and Angelina Jolie were wearing each other's blood in a vial.
Yeah, they had a crazy go of it. That was the soulmate connection, I think, too. That chemistry, it really gets you. My dad always said, you got to be careful with chemistry. It'll ruin your life. He said that to me. I remember we were sitting at Spoons in a booth, and I remember telling him about my husband. I said, don't worry, Dad. I'm not going to marry the guy. Literally, a couple months later, we were married. But he's like, you got to be careful with chemistry. He knew right then what was happening. And he's like, you got to be careful with chemistry. It's going to ruin your life.
Because it fogs your judgment.
Yeah, it fogs your judgment.
Yeah, I gave up for my soulmate, I gave up my job, moved in with him, just stopped my entire life because I thought it was going to be forever. And maybe it would have been if I would have allowed myself to be the person that he needed me to be. But I know I would have been disappointed in myself if I would have just allowed myself to change completely for someone else's needs.
Well, I really admire you for being able to actually realize that then and be able to call off a wedding 3 weeks before the wedding.
Right.
Because that's a big deal.
I just knew I was starting to feel like the walls were getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and I knew that I was going to end up
This is
acting
not for
out.
you.
If I would have stayed, I would have rebelled against it because that's my personality in
Right.
general. And then having grown up with a single mom too, I had so much freedom growing up. I never
Yeah.
really had rules or anything, and
Me
so
neither.
being with someone that was trying to augment my personality and fit into their role that they wanted for me, I
Yeah.
could tell that I was going
I
to end
cannot
up
even imagine you in that. I can't even imagine you in that life.
me becoming a Stepford wife.
Yeah, I cannot imagine you as a Stepford wife.
I could be a housewife,
It would
but not a Stepford
happen
wife.
easily.
No, it would not.
No.
And I would have resented him, and I would have resented myself for
Right.
becoming someone that
And now
I'm
you'd be two
completely
kids
not.
in, like, totally miserable, trying to stick it out until the kids graduate high school.
Right. And I do feel that even though I still will always have that chemical feeling of he was my soulmate, maybe soulmates aren't necessarily the person that
No.
you should be with.
It's exciting.
Very
it's exciting to be, even when my ex visited recently, it's like it's there. Like I can feel it. It's thick. Like
The
here.
chemistry.
And then of course then he says like, I don't know what it is. Like I can feel it. Like it's literally right here. I'm like, I know, I feel it too. Like this is so crazy. He was like, what is this? I'm like, I don't know.
I know.
Like,
but
it's really crazy.
that's why I feel like I wouldn't even want to be in the
But it's
same
a lot
room.
of fun.
It's fun and exciting, but now our lives are so different, and each of us are married, and we have our own. Like, I don't think I could be in the same room with my former soulmate.
It was a lot of fun to say no. It was a lot of fun to be like, no, we're not doing that.
Right.
And I think
Because,
I was like, I actually respect you right now. And if we did anything, I would not respect you. So let's just kind of leave it here.
and then if you are together, then the heartbreak happens all over again, even
Oh,
after
you can't
all
let
these
yourself
years.
into it.
No.
No, I did that whole going back thing for years afterwards.
I did
And
too.
It's not, never happening again.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
just a heartbreak over and over and over again. And I
Yeah.
would think,
And then you're miserable for like actually like a year later because you're like thinking about it, your memory is having recall, and you see something that reminds you, and now you're reliving this, 30 minutes maybe, over and over again in your head. No, you can't let yourself do that. What advice would you give to a young girl right now that's like, say, 18 to 21 and thinks like she has met the love of her life?
do you think that happens anymore with all their access? I don't know. What I hate the most is to hear about young girls that think they found the love of their life and then they have to go through their first heartbreak.
Yeah, it's scary.
The first heartbreak is the worst, and you just, in those moments, you feel as though you're never going to replace this person and that this is it, it's the end, and crazy things happen.
It totally
People
makes
go in,
me cry.
I know, me too. You go into a horrible depression and just feeling like you're never going to be able to replace this person, and just in looking back at our lives, knowing that this is probably not Mr. Right.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Right now, but there's someone out there that's going to fulfill you in so many different ways as you grow.
You have no idea.
You have no idea, but it's
Yeah.
impossible to know that when you're in it. It's
Yeah.
so hard when you're young, and realizing that there is life after.
Right. Right. I'm not good. I'm pretty sure you said right. No, just kidding.
The life after.
It is the life after, and how big the world is, and how many opportunities there are for you, and all the things you can do. And besides even just finding a soulmate, I mean, I know that right now, having young kids, that there's a whole group of kids in society that are scared they'll never find anybody because of all of this stuff, and because they can so easily be replaced, and the fact that nobody gives anybody a chance to even show who they are, and I think that the kids aren't really paying attention, I mean, some are, but the majority of kids, it's kind of like, I'm never going to find anybody. I mean, I have teenage kids that were worried about it, and we talked candidly about it. My son says there's a whole group of men that nobody will ever want because they're not rich, and they're not this, and they're not that. And I'm like, babe, there's someone for everyone. You just have to get out there. You have to see how big the world is. But when you're young, you don't realize how big the world is, or all the opportunities, or that every person you meet is like a new story that can lead to a whole new path to your whole life. They're just like watching what's on the screen. And when you're on your screens, you're not really allowing yourself to feel anything.
Well, and the pressure, like with what you're saying about the screens, is you're looking at all of these people whose lives look like fantasies, and they're so much better than you. And we all know, well, as adults, we know that it's not realistic. But when you're young, you think, I'm never going to look like Kim Kardashian. How am I ever going to find someone
There's so much
if I don't look like
overexposure.
her, or if I don't look like this supermodel?
Right.
And for guys, I'm sure the same. You look at the wealth that's out there, and it's also public, that they think, how would I ever achieve that and find someone that is going to think I'm worthy?
We were competing with supermodels. Like, we were competing with Cindy Crawford and Nikki Taylor and Claudia Schiffer, and there was like 6 of them.
Right.
Okay. And it was like, I can never be one of those 6 women. Great. Now, young girls are competing with 5,000 Instagrammers with 2 million plus followers that look really good in yoga pants.
Right.
And they're on there, and and then they're watching all day beauty makeup tutorials on these girls look like how I looked at 30. I mean, their eyebrows are all perfect. Everyone's getting waxed. They got their hair all done, everything. I mean, nobody's even a kid. I mean, they're already dressing up at like 11.
Right.
Like with this stuff. So I feel like when you're doing all that and you're so hyper focused on what it looks like, you're just totally missing out on the connection in the relationship.
The chemical connection.
Yeah, and the chemical. How do you even recognize it?
I don't know.
When you're
do you
preoccupied.
think that young people are going to have, like teenagers are going to have the chemistry, soulmate, twin flame?
That's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if it's a generational thing, or do they believe in this too? Like the younger generations. Like, is it something that they hope for, that they feel? Like, if you're on your phone at a coffee shop, how are you going to feel the energy coming off the person sitting next to you or the guy at the counter? Like, if you're totally distracted.
We just had my daughter's senior prom, this last weekend, and I saw some of the couples that were together, and I could tell they were just like super into each other.
Oh my
And
gosh.
part of me was thinking that's adorable, and part of me was thinking, please don't let it end in heartbreak because I don't want them to go through that.
It's
But
going to.
I know that, and now they're
It's
all going to
so
go away to
hard.
college because they're seniors.
Everything
and so when they
changes.
all go their different directions, I don't want them to base any of their decisions on this chemical attraction they're having when they're young and think, I was going to go to the University of Arizona, but now I'm going to go to Utah because that's where my boyfriend's going. Because
Right.
we all know that chances are that boyfriend's not going to be your boyfriend once you get to college.
Maybe like the first 3 months.
You cannot let the chemicals attract you.
Although I think when it's there, it's there. Like maybe they realize it. Maybe there's crazy kids. I mean, like I say, my stepbrother, he fell in love with the girl down the street. They got married. It all worked out. But they switched where they went to school. They did it all. They were like committed to each other at a young age. So, and even my daughter, she got married right away. And after some crazy heartbreak, which was so hard to watch,
I know.
it was really hard. And she wouldn't talk to me. It was like this whole thing. And I was just trying to tell her, like, this happens. It's actually horrendous to watch your kid go through it. It's almost like it's
Absolutely.
happening to you. I was like crying myself to sleep at night over her pain. But like, I feel like when you are committed, her husband that she met, they're both young, but they're so committed to living this life together. They talk maturely to each other. And I think maybe the TikTok and everything has something to do with that too. Because if you have relationship questions once you're in one, there's like scrolling through different people that have been through the same thing. So, I mean, there's benefits and there's, you know, downfalls too. But I do feel like it's a commitment, even when you're when you're young, because my daughter's 21 and then just got married. They're so committed at that age to communicating with each other that it's impressive. Because I
think
mean, I
that's
never
rare.
thought, I mean, I wasn't like that when I was that age.
So I guess the question in my mind right now is, there's a country song about this, but The Dance by Garth Brooks
Of
is,
course.
I would have missed the pain, but I would have had to miss the dance.
Oh, I love that
So
song. It makes me cry.
I know, when you have these soul mate, twin flame memories, is it worth the heartache that comes when it's over?
Absolutely.
I think it's worth it too.
Absolutely worth it.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody go out and find your soulmate or your twin flame or your bestie. And thanks so much. It's The Naked Truth with Taylor Armstrong.